Hello, and welcome to Mid-Market Leaders, the podcast featuring leaders from some of America's most impactful, but probably lesser known companies. My name is Jeff Cass. I'm an executive coach here in Charlotte, North Carolina, who retired in 2023 after more than 30 years of leadership in corporate America, and I'll be your host. My guest today is Aaron Bock, who runs an IT company called Upcalla. There's no doubt in my mind that Upcalla is one of those special middle market businesses that contribute more than 60% of the employment growth in America every day. His business has been recognized regionally by the Charlotte Business Journal in their Fast 50 for the fastest growing private companies in the Charlotte area, by the Channel Company for the 150 fastest growing North American IT solution providers, and have also been named for several years on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private American companies. So Aaron, that's quite a resume. I'm sure there's more to that, but welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me. And you summed it up well. There's been a lot of accolades over the last few years, and I'm humbled to be a part of it.
Yeah, and it's been 6 years, is that right, since you started the company?
Yeah, so we're tax day 2019 is our start. And so we just hit our 6-year anniversary last month.
Okay, 6 years and 1 month, almost to the day, huh? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Before we get into the business side, I also heard that you are an accomplished golfer. And as you can tell from the sign behind me, I'm quite a golf fan. But a little birdie told me that you just recently got a hole in one. Is that right?
Yes, I love how in the last week I've had so many people ask me if I'm an accomplished golfer. I'm a lucky golfer. I'm actually an 11 handicap, but I did get a hole in one last week down in Kiowa. It was on a par 3, about 160 yards, and it really wasn't that great of a shot. I actually thought I hit it short, but it just took a perfect bounce, hit the flag stick and dropped in. And so I have a flag with the whole number of the course, hole in one, and everyone we played with signed it. So it was a pretty cool experience. So I don't know, once in a lifetime, I hope not, but maybe. I hadn't been even close before that.
Okay, so 6 years, you've been on a rocket ship, using your words. So tell us a little bit about maybe how Upcalla came about and a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so Upcalla, like I said, 6 years. We started April 2019. What we are is we're a vendor neutral IT advisory firm. We do not charge for our consulting and our advisory. And ultimately, our goal is to help people select and make better technology decisions. So we can be a lot of things to a lot of people. But if you take in IT, there's the traditional VAR, value added reseller. They typically in the past, in years and many decades before, have partnered and picked a solution provider that they get super exclusive with, very key with, they train all their employees on, and that's great. And that model still exists and there's still a need for it. The problem is that technology is evolving and being introduced so fast that model is being outdated right before our eyes. So why we exist and where did we come up with the idea? We saw customers that were looking for a vendor neutral or a technology advisor. So you'd reach out and you'd say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what to do in my data center. What do I do with cybersecurity? But behind the scenes, the traditional VAR is set up to sell 1 or 2 products. So there's a conflict there inherently. You say, I want you to be my advisor. Behind the scenes, I'm being told, like, here's the things we sell. I can't truly advise you. And we kept asking customers in the late 2010s, hey, what if you had someone who truly didn't have exclusivity, wasn't super ingrained with that provider, but could be a little bit more agnostic and help you find the best solution for what you need, whether that's cost, size, you name it, experience. And every customer said, we want that. We would love that. We think we have that today. And I was in the space and I knew you don't really have it. And Jim, Brice, and I, who are the founders of Upcalla, and then Steve Ermish, who's our fourth, we just decided, let's be agnostic. Let's be vendor neutral. Let's put a lot of time and effort into the front part of working with customers so that we can work with them for life. And that model we didn't prove it out before. We didn't know if it was going to work. And then we started and it just became like it spread like wildfire, actually. Like people were calling their friends and saying, hey, have you met with Opkala? They are definitely different. You need to talk to them. It's not so different in the grand scheme of things. Like in real estate, for example, we use real estate agents. They don't care which house you end up in. They just want you to find the right house. And that's how
Right.
they get paid. Insurance brokers, same thing. In IT, we just haven't had that. We either have a consultant that's you're going to spend money on to give you that agnostic advice, or you have these resellers that are pretty ingrained with a provider. And then you have managed service providers. We fall in between them and just provide agnostic, vendor neutral help and research and resources to customers to help them select the best technology. And it's been awesome. It's
Okay.
still growing as fast today as it did in 2019. And my job today as the CEO is just to help us grow safely, smart, ethically, all the right things that we need for stable growth.
And maintaining that original vision that you had as well. I think you're telling me about that, right? Is that an easy thing to do?
I think it's actually gotten easier because there's so many solutions. I always say the stat, and people who know me are tired of me saying this. Last year alone, I think it was 1,400 cybersecurity solutions came to the market.
Wow.
That is so many solutions. And every year they get acquired, they get sold, they go bankrupt. And so as a customer, how do you possibly stay up with that many solutions? It's impossible. We even have a hard time doing it. So
Yeah.
our job is, hey, you guys are going to know more than me. What do you know about that market? What do you know about that space? Who have you seen do well? What customers are doing that? So our whole thing is let us be a research arm and let us be almost like a procurement arm or a partner to you to go figure this out. And together we'll find the right solution for you, whether it's well known or it's a brand new solution.
So just make sure I understand the business plan here. So you don't get paid by the customer directly, correct?
We do if the provider chooses that they want to sell through a reseller. So
Mm.
if you think about, if you go to buy a TV, right? There's probably a TV brand out there that you can just go to Sony.com and buy a TV. I don't know. I haven't checked, but that
Okay.
would be buying direct. And then Sony might give the affiliate, the person that linked that site, a commission for bringing them to Sony.com. Or Best Buy, you go to Best Buy and you buy a Sony TV. They sell it to Best Buy at $80. You buy it from Best Buy at $90 and they make $10 margin. That's how we make money. It just depends on the solution that you're buying and which preferred way they go through the channel. And we don't care. That's the nice thing. And that's actually another value add is that with IT, there's been these traditional channels, like this channel is all resell, this channel is all brokered or commission. They're very much blurring. And so if you're one or the other, you're not going to show your customer the other side. And we just show them everything. And we just don't care which way it is. We do make money. We're not a non-for-profit and our customers know that, but our margins are very reasonable. We don't make an absurd amount on any single transaction because our goal is to work with a customer for 10, 15, 20 years, not to get the most amount of money in one single opportunity.
So if I'm you and you're coming into a new relationship with a customer, they know you're an agnostic research arm to help them find the right solution. You may not know how you're going to get paid as you get into that relationship. Is that right?
It's not necessarily we have to figure out how we get paid. If they end up selecting a technology that we've helped them identify, we will get paid whether it's model A or model B.
Mhm.
But to your point, we work with customers all the time. And I always tell people, some people say, that sounds too good to be true. You're going to do free consulting and free advice, and I don't pay you unless you actually do something. Yeah, that's our risk is we spend a lot of time up front with customers. I might meet you as a CFO, a CIO, a CEO, and we start working together and you say, I got these problems. But I don't know, your model seems too good to be true. I say, try it. Let us give you some advice. Let us give you some of the documentation and data we have. If you want to go buy it somewhere else, that's up to you. I'm not going to stop you. I want to give you the best advice I can. And we've had people do that. And
Mhm.
We don't make money when they do that, but that's a risk for us. But it goes back to what is supposed to be a value added reseller. We provide the value up front. We really do try to add tons of value into the process. And then, what's interesting, another piece that we've learned over the 6 years is that with 1,400 cybersecurity vendors coming to the market every year, that's the same every single year. The reps you have, the people you knew when you bought the product, before it got sold, et cetera, it's just an always changing rotation. And so the only constant sometimes is us.
Okay.
And so a customer will say, yeah, I've had 10 different reps for this solution, but Opcala has been the same the whole time. So it just provides stability before the sale, after or during the sale, after the sale, and for the life of them deploying an IT solution and then evolving with it. They may be a one location manufacturer when we start working with them. And by the time they're done, there are 100 locations. They have a wildly different IT need when they've grown that fast as they did when they were one location. And the same recommendation we make in year one may not be the same recommendation we're making in year 6. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what customers love about it, is they don't have to change their partner out every time they scale or change or do something. They just keep growing within tech and they keep the same partner.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming that you're not working with Fortune 500 companies that have their own IT department, right? You're probably working with the same type of companies that I'm talking to on this podcast, the middle market companies. Is that right?
We work with a lot of middle market. We do work with Fortune 1000. I would say Fortune 1000s are built to do more of it in-house themselves with procurement, IT vendor management. And honestly, not to knock the big companies, but bureaucracy we were talking about this before the podcast. Bureaucracy is like maybe the worst thing possible for maybe our government and for big companies. It just slows everything down. And in the middle market, they don't have 5 people that do the same role. They might have one person that does the same role. Or I love the procurement person. The company decides we're big enough to have procurement and they have one person, and that person is just totally overworked and swamped. We could be their best friend because we can look at everything and say, you're double paying, you're overpaying, you have 2 technologies that do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you even evaluated this contract in 5 years? So it's a lot of companies. We say our sweet spot is basically 150, 200 employees up to maybe 5 to 10,000 employees.
Oh, okay.
If you equate that in revenue, it's probably like 50 million to 2 to 3 billion. Could be more or less depending on the industry, but in that sweet spot, those folks need a lot of help, and there's just not a lot of people in the IT space helping them. And so we've just been able to really get in, basically be a sidecar to their team and help them through evaluations, help them get better at cybersecurity, infrastructure, networking, you name it in IT, we're helping them. And it's been a great partnership for us.
Okay. Okay. I see. So let's go back to when you started, right? You said the original concept was 2010. That wasn't long after you graduated from college, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
It wasn't. So I graduated right in the middle of the 2008 recession. I ended up at a Big Four consulting firm, and the idea was there then because I saw that it wasn't their fault, but I just happened to be in a role where I had to be very independent as an auditor / consultant. I couldn't provide certain recommendations, but customers needed those recommendations. They had questions that they wanted to bounce off someone. And at the time, I remember Oracle and SAP, we dealt with a lot. And if you made a comment like which one is better, which one is more fun, slap on your wrist, and then you do it again, you're out, because we had to be totally independent. But the number of customers that would try to ask that question, it's like, man, they really need help and they don't really know where to go. And so I saw it there, but just over the 10 years, basically before we started Opcala, I just saw it over and over and over. Technology got more advanced. There was more solutions ever coming to market. People needed more help. We as humans tend to do what we know, right? When you have technology that no one knows or no one's done before, you can't go to yourself. You try to go to your peers, but if they've only got one experience, like want more than one experience. So who do you go to? That's where this all came from. And so my background was consulting, and then I was in IT service and product sales. And
Okay.
between those two backgrounds, it was a perfect mix to as an entrepreneur, I know some people that just know they want to be an entrepreneur from day one and they know what kind of business. I wasn't like that. I wanted to eventually maybe start a business, but I just didn't know what or how. And then all of a sudden my experience blended, and Brice, me and Jim got together and said, "Hey, I think this is an idea." And our wives said, "Sure," which was crazy for them to say, but that was the ultimate blend of just letting things come and not forcing them. And then this idea just hit us right in the face.
So you were a finance major, is that right?
Yes, I was a finance major, but I actually was a management major. But then I went to my freshman year and my counselor said, "What are you going to manage?" And I said, "I don't know business." And she said, "You might want to have a skill set that you know before management," which I don't know. I was just too naive and probably not focused enough. But so I
Mhm.
switched to finance, which I don't really love, but I learned it. It's fine. I ended up taking a role in '09 that was really putting me back into IT. And this is how I ended up in this space.
Yeah, okay, okay. So 10 years into your career, how about your partners? How far along were they into their career when you started Upcalla?
Probably about the same. So we're all about 38 years old now. And so we're pretty young. We all have about the same energy level, depending on how well you slept the night before, because we all have young kids. We're all about the same. And so we each had Brice was in a more sales focused role, came from a large fleet management company. Jim was in more IT sales the whole time. And then myself, I was IT consulting and then sales. So we all had similar backgrounds, but we all had a different perspective.
Hmm,
And the three of us had a very nice balance when we came together and formed Opkala. And honestly, like almost every decision, every characteristic about us, there's a spectrum. It's
okay.
always three different perspectives, which is nice, but it's also challenging.
Yeah, I'm sure. You don't always agree, but you get a well-rounded view of the problem or the issue at hand to come up with the best solution. Is that kinda what you're saying?
Yes, with both business and like technology, but also just like how to grow, where to scale, should we do this, how to finance, et cetera. It's just all of the things in business.
Okay. So I wanna go back to that 10 years out of college into your career. All of you are at that point, and as I think back, that's the time you're married, you're having kids, and you're making a decent amount of money, right? That's a hard decision. So talk about that if you would.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard decision, but and you may ask this later, but the the one thing I always tell people is there's no unless it's like you're right out of college and you just don't have any money and it doesn't matter.
Right.
There's never a good time to make the decision to just drop everything and start a business unless like you're just that lucky person that either it's in your family or you get some massive inheritance. Like it's just never easy. Like you're right. We were all making very good money. We were all just starting to hit the peak of our careers, and it wasn't an easy decision. Honestly, I was pretty happy with where I was at. There was things I wished that I had, but I always looked at my life and said, "Man, I have it pretty good." But when at some point you stop, like you mature and you start thinking about like, what does 10 years from now look like? Or what does this look like if I keep doing the same thing? And I just didn't really like the outlook. Like I was either going to move up in sales management and travel all the time at someone else's request, or go be an individual contributor for a technology provider that every 3 to 4 years I'm looking for the next thing. Or I just didn't really like that output personally. And I'm big on you work to pay for your personal life, not live to work. And so my
Yeah.
personal life was I wanted to be home for my children, my wife, my kids, my family, et cetera. And so I wanted to find something that would suit me better, and then also bring a culture that does put that first and allows you to work, but also have a personal life and have a fun like balance between that, which is hard to do. But so it's not easy. That's the answer to your question. And again, I don't want to have the the rock bottom story that I think a lot of CEOs do. But like the year we did it, we decided to do this. We ended up having to non-competes and and non-solicits are absolutely, they are enforceable for people that don't believe that. Now there's a lot of people who say different things, but you do have to respect your legal contracts of employment. So we had to deal with that. My wife was pregnant with our second child.
Ooh.
We went from making very good money to zero very quickly. The same year, my wife was actually starting a business, a gym here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so she's pregnant, starting a gym. I'm now starting a business. It definitely wasn't like a good time, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like we had a promise. I said, we're gonna do this. We're gonna try it for this long. If we get to this, then it proves that it works. If it doesn't, then I'll go back and get another job. And so we just had an agreement that like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Are you okay with this? And luckily she believed in it. She said, you've got to do it. You're very passionate about it. And I think that was the best thing that ever happened. Was one, we didn't limp into it. We had to create this thing from scratch, and we had to do it in a certain amount of time or else we couldn't stay doing it. And that
Mhm.
really puts your back against the wall and really motivates you, because you're saying, hey, I want to make this thing work and I'm going
Yeah.
to do anything in my power. And so going back to there's never a right time. When we started, that happened to be like the age where all my friends were starting to either go from like just married to looking at having kids, or like they're starting to go on like their nice big trip because they're making good money. So I feel like every single one of my friends went to Europe that year. We did. We ate peanut butter and jelly. We didn't do any vacations. You just do it and you just get through it. And honestly, looking back, those are some of the most fun experiences of all of Opkala, because
Mhm.
you don't really know what you don't know. And but I would just tell anyone who has that idea, if you can get through the first 2 to 3 years and really prove that it works, then after that it gets easier. It gets harder in some ways, gets easier in other ways, and but monetarily it gets easier and you start to grow. And yeah, there's just, it's such a great experience. But my advice is that there's never a good time. And I meet so many people who say, I'll wait for this. Don't wait for it.
Yeah.
Unless you have some super pressing thing, don't wait, just start, because it's never going to get easier. And I don't think I could do the same thing now that I could 6 years ago, because the motivation might not be there or the drive might not be there.
Yeah, I think it's a great story. And it's interesting because my son, who is in his late 20s, he made a similar decision with exactly the same view. I want to be here when I'm 30, 40, 50, 60. And that was really his driving focus. And people like me who went through that corporate route, I knew what I was getting into. And that was more of the view, even from our parents. You stay at a company for 40 years. That's changed dramatically. And I think without people like you that go out and chase these kind of things, the American economy looks very different. So I think that's terrific. Now,
Yeah.
Aaron, going back to after you started, how long did it take before you knew this really was going to have legs and this could work?
We had a feeling it was going to work from the beginning, but it was really about 8 to 9 months in. I tell this story a lot too. So we had made a promise to our wives. We said, hey, we're going to get the bank account back to where we started it by the end of this year. That was the goal. That was the initial goal.
Okay.
And I remember, so we had put $100,000 in basically, and we said, we're going to have the bank account back above that by the end of this year. About October, I was seriously considering looking at other jobs, because I was like, I don't think we're going to be even close. After about 5 to 6 months of really working hard and getting these things done, getting some of the evaluations done, November, December turned out to be awesome months. And right before the Christmas holiday of 2019, the bank account like just crept past the initial like balance that it was at. And had it not been quite there, I think we would have been okay. But it just proved that some of the things we had been putting in for the last 8 months were working. And so we took our wives between Christmas and New Year's to a steakhouse here in Charlotte, which we had not done the whole year.
Mhm.
And we basically said, we made it, look where we're at, order anything. And I remember the bill being like over $1,000, which was a ridiculously expensive meal for us.
For 6 people.
Yes, for 6 people. And we had a good time. We had our chat. The next morning, I remember Jim, Brice, and I texting saying, and they were saying, how much was that dinner? And I said, if you really want to know, it was over 1% of our entire balance of this business. But I think we need to do it to prove it to our wives. So we had that dinner. We call that the we made it dinner. So maybe that was the point. But I think once we hired our first employees in 2020, and then we started growing about 2 to 4 employees per year, 2020, 2021. And I think when we started to have employees who were starting to have success, not just the founders, that's when we knew, hey, this thing could really scale, because not only just us growing and providing for our families, but other people believe in this too and really love this model. And again, we're pretty intentional about culture. Sometimes we don't know we're being intentional, but we're very like, put your personal goals first, write them down, figure out how you're going to achieve them. And if you can achieve those, then you're probably achieving at work too. And like that mindset really helped us grow, but it also really, I didn't really think of this, but the more you and I can achieve our personal goals, those probably equate to either money or professional status or legacy or whatever it may be for you or someone else. You're probably doing well for your customers. You're probably doing well for your clients.
Yeah.
And you're all in. And so the more all in people are, the more passionate they are about what you're doing, the faster you grow. And so we've just been blessed. So since 2020, 2021, when those people started to have success, the passion we see is still there today. And I think when that goes away, that's when the business turns into a corporation or bureaucracy. And I hope that never happens for us, because we're still very passionate about it. And I think that's what keeps us growing and driving and really being a fun place to work.
Tell me if I'm wrong. If you have that view and people connect their personal goals with their business goals because they are related, they're happier, they probably stay longer. Has that been the case for you?
Absolutely. People are the most important part of your organization, unless you're some crazy tech AI company that just needs no people. But for us, people is what drive our customers. It's what drives our success. It drives our customer service. It drives every piece of our business. And so without good people that are willing to support each other, our core values are trust, transparency, and speed, and that we have 15 culture characteristics, support one another, constantly learn, et cetera. And I won't list them all out, but like our people have to embody those characteristics. And again, we interview a lot of traditional sellers, account managers, looking for them to be technology advisors. And so I could interview the best seller I've ever met, but if they don't embody those core characteristics, like we won't hire them, because it's so important to keep people in the mission with the culture of the company and not a lone wolf. And I think we've done a very good job, accidentally sometimes, but we've done a very good job just making sure that's the case. And so we've just had incredible growth because of the people, and the people are the ones that are driving it. And so I love to see we're working with a company. I didn't even know we were working with them, but I love to see they're the ones giving a testimonial for one of the people that has been hired in the last couple of years, saying like, hey, Opcala really changed the way I do IT. It's really made my life easier. I love this. And that is a key part of our growth. And like you go back to the interview process, we use predictive index. I highly recommend anyone using some type of assessment in the interview process to determine, not to say that there's a type you need to look for, but just to understand the people you're hiring and know that, hey, if I'm going to hire this person, this is what I'm going to need to provide them in order to thrive. So like you and I, Jeff, we're different people. We probably require different things in order to be led, managed, have success.
Yeah.
As if I'm the manager of you and me, I need to know Aaron needs this and Jeff needs this, and I need to give both of them a tailored custom approach. But I also need to have them both align with the same core values and culture characteristics. That's hard. It's hard to be that as a leader. It's hard to do that as an organization, but you just try to do the best you can. And sometimes you fail and you have people that are not a good fit. And sometimes you have people that it takes a while, but ultimately, like if you can just come back and get that right, you save a lot of time, money, and you provide better service for your customers.
Yeah, I think some companies, when they're hiring, never kind of get to that point. You have a very simple vision and the values. Did you have that in 2019 when you guys had that dinner? Was that there at that point with the three of you?
The core values were always there. So we have not changed really our core values since we removed one core value just because it was confusing, but we've had the same core values since we started in 2019. We're transparent with our customers because we're agnostic. We'll show
Mhm.
them anything they want to see. Speed is a core value because we want to do things faster because the mid-market companies you talked about, they need to move faster and they have to move faster to compete with the big corporations out there in the Fortune 1000. So we move fast. And by doing those two things, we build trust. And our goal is ultimately to build trust long term. The culture characteristics came really later. They came a couple years later when we started hiring employees. We really wanted to, people do good things every day, but hey, thank you for doing that great thing. You want to say what that good thing was and make sure that you make examples of the things that you really value. And we get I remember early on, like a customer was sending us an email saying, hey, so and so did an amazing job with this. That was a culture characteristic. They did something that the customer really appreciated. Or a great story I have is our operations team, who's not customer facing all the time. Our banker called us and said, hey, I love working with this person on your team. What banker calls you to say that? So
None.
no, no. And so that deserved a shout out. That deserved like a culture characteristic award. So we do shout outs every Monday. And so they've evolved into what we are today, but we've had the same core values. Just be good to people, do the
Mhm.
right thing. Like never use this chance to get ahead for this one thing. Cause we all know it's not a sprint. It's a long marathon, your career, your time at a company. And so do the right thing every day and the good things will just consistently happen and you'll get lucky or you end up earning things that you didn't think just because you do the right thing. So
Yeah.
that's always been in our DNA. And we try to stick to that. We try to make sure people are recognized for that. We also have to sometimes talk to people and say, hey, this is not how we work. If you're going to do this, like you go somewhere else because this is not the way we're going to do it. And
Mhm.
those are not fun conversations, but you have to have them or in order to protect that culture.
So one of my questions was going to be leadership style, but I think you're explaining it as we're talking through this. But is there anything else you would add to your leadership style outside of the fact that you have a good vision? You are the caretaker of that, hiring the right people, having the right culture. Those are all really important things to you, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. So I would say if you describe the leadership style of Apkala or me, it's be a servant leader, which I know is cliche in 2025, but truly be willing to roll up your sleeves or show someone like you're there with them, right? You don't lead from afar. Don't say things and then go do something else that's counteractive to what you just said you wanted them to do. So walk the values that you want everyone else to walk. And our leadership team does an amazing job. Every year, I'm thrilled with the amount of impact they have on the team. So lead by example, put your personal values first, right? So again, if you have a personal value that conflicts with ours, that's okay. I'm not saying that's not right, but it's just maybe not a good fit to work here if we conflict our personal values and our culture and our company values conflict with yours. So that's okay. But make sure that the person who works here's personal values are front and center. You know what they are. We as a leader can help them achieve that. And my biggest motivation in what we do is I love when someone comes to us and says, hey, because of what we've talked about with personal goals, I paid off blank loan 2 years faster than I ever thought I could have.
Mm.
Or I bought a car with no loan. Or I started doing this class that I didn't think I would ever start. And those are the kinds of things that like, that's going to make that person happy, better at work, more willing to support you if you ever need anything. And then they're going to produce more. And so It's just put that person first. And then the last thing that we always talk about is we're an outcomes-based business. And so I don't think I have anyone who tracks time. Again, we all work, but I don't want to sit here and say you don't have to work hard, because you do, but I don't look at someone and say, hey, you were here at 8:01 and you left at 4:47. Like and you took an hour for lunch. That's not okay.
Mhm.
I look at it and say, what did we ask you to do? Did you do it? I don't care where they're working from. I don't really have the right to say that they shouldn't go to this appointment or that. I know this whole like COVID thing has thrown everyone in a tizzy about where they work and how they work and the hybrid work. My thing is, I have people all around the country and the world. I need them to produce outcomes for our customers and our team internally. And if we can do that, whether it's 30 hours a week or 50 hours a week, like, we'll do it. Right. And so you start to look at who's too busy, who's not, how can we encourage more? So some people might disagree with that. And I'm lucky that our workforce and the type of work we do, we don't have a ton of turnover, or we don't have a lot of people who just come for a couple weeks and leave. So we were lucky with that. But, just tell them what the job is, show them what the excelling in that job is, and then let them do it. And if they're achieving personal goals, they're probably achieving that business goal and hitting the outcomes you want. So
Yeah.
why do you care? Why do you care where they're at? Why do you care what they're doing? I joke we have someone who I think does all of his business from the golf course. Okay, fine. Like, he does very well. So what am I to say that's the wrong way to do it? It's maybe not the way I would do it, but it's the way he can be successful. I'm semi-joking, but that's the way he does it.
Yeah, I think that trust comes through in your employees, right? That's important. That's one of your core values. Now, you brought up COVID. And I want to go back to when you were originally starting. You have this dinner around the holidays, 2019. 3 months later, there's a lockdown. There's a global pandemic. How did that affect you?
So we're lucky, and I'll be the first one to say probably positive. If you think about what COVID was, I'll take my wife's business was a gym, and we're an IT consulting firm.
Yeah.
Everyone was trying to figure out how to get their employees home and work productively, which was your Zoom, your Teams, all your remote solutions, cloud solutions. Like, everyone needed help. And so it actually probably helped our business when you look at COVID, which is most people probably can't say. So we were actually growing really fast during COVID. And honestly, it changed the tech industry, because there was a lot of people who were doing the same type of tech for 10 years. And all of a sudden, COVID put this start bookmark on it and said, if you haven't done this now, it's probably the time to do it. And so a lot of companies moved to the cloud. They started creating the hybrid remote workforce. If they didn't already have it, they started allowing virtual meetings. Banks were allowing virtual meetings. Lawyers were allowing virtual closings, things like that. It just basically it put tech in every single process for every company across the world. We were great. For a gym, not great.
Right.
Tough,
Right.
very tough. And so I'm blessed that we were able to be in the spot. COVID was an awful time for so many people. And so I hate what it did, but I can't say it like affected us negatively. What I will say is it made it very weird and hard to hire the right people. Living in Charlotte, North Carolina, we're not considered the top of the pay scale in anywhere you go. And so we would have people that we thought would be a great fit, and a company from San Fran or New York or LA would be interviewing the same person we were interviewing and offering $100,000 more of a salary. I can't say they shouldn't take that. So we would lose good people a lot during COVID because of the hybrid work and because of the remote work. But we're starting to see it come back to normal. And now we're past that cloud revolution in technology. We're into the AI and data revolution. So it's a whole nother thing. And that's a topic that everyone probably is tired of or heard on 1,000 different podcasts or shows. But it was actually not a terrible thing for us. And we were set up for it, because we couldn't afford an office. So we were
Remote.
we were remote with this tiny little office space we had. Yeah, we were fine.
And how are you today? Are you a hybrid? Do you have an office?
We have an office in North Carolina. We have about half of our folks that come into the office a couple days a week. And then we have half that are, around the world. Some around the United States, some around the world. So obviously I don't expect those folks to go into an office because we don't have offices in all those cities, states, countries. So what we do is we try to bring everyone together at least twice a year as the whole company. And then some of the individual teams get together throughout the year at different times.
In-person get together, you're saying?
In person. Yep.
Okay. And do you
Yeah.
have meetups with those folks that are remote constantly, virtually, just to make sure that everybody still feels the water cooler talk, so to speak, the connection that you need?
Yeah. And I think as a leader, that's probably one of the hardest things to get right is the cadence with when you have an all virtual team or a hybrid team or just like the change in size of teams. When we had 5 employees, 5 total people, yeah, you sit around a conference room and you just say, okay, what are you doing this week? That's
Mhm.
very different than we have a Monday morning meeting every Monday, all company. Half of it is more just how was your weekend? How are you doing? Culture, characteristic, shout outs. And then half of it is business. What do you need to know this week? What are we doing? How are we doing? And so making sure that you keep that meeting intentional for the size you have has become more of a challenge because we have 40 some people now. You don't want to waste their time, but that is our chance to build relationships, learn about people. So that meeting for us has become very less business and much more about the people. So we let the team get really creative with it. So we'll do trivia. Last week, everyone was writing poems because it was National Limerick Day. We have dress up, so dress up on camera or you name it. And again, some people in business might say, well, that's stupid or cheesy. I think it's cool. I think it's showing people personality outside of work. I think it allows people to get to know you a little bit more intimately. Ultimately, like we want people to be vulnerable. The more vulnerable you can be with someone, the more you get to know them and get that layer of trust to a lower
Mhm.
level where you can actually
Mhm.
have a better conversation. So I think we try to make that meeting as fun as possible. And then there are other meetings where every week the team meets, our ops team meets 4 to 5 times a week and on a daily stand up, and it's all virtual. Our sales team meets every 2 weeks in person, or sorry, every 2 weeks virtually, every quarter in person. We as a company all meet twice a year in person. So that will change as we get bigger, I'm sure. And that'll change as we get more locations. But
Yeah.
for right now, it's working.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. All right. So I'm just looking at the time. We got about 10 minutes. I got a couple questions I really want to ask. So maybe shifting gears a little bit from what we have been talking about. Who do you go to when you have to make a tough decision? I'm sure, of course, you go to your partners, right? But do you consult others as well?
Absolutely. Brice, Jim, Steve, and I and our leadership team, we talk a lot about just, hey, are we making this decision? What do we need to do? Outside of the company, I'm in Vistage. I've been in Vistage for a number of years and I have a great Vistage group. And so I will do an issue processing if it's a issue I want to hear, or I'll just ask someone, hey, I think you've dealt with this before. What did you do? I'm in YPO as of recent, just at our size. And
Mm.
I have folks in YPO that I'll go to, especially industry specific or like similar business models. Hey, how did you do this? Or if you run into this issue, I'll go ask someone there. And then I'm just lucky. I feel like I have a good network of folks that are not in a specific group, but I just know from networking and from my career who I can call, whether it's a friend from college or like a friend I've met locally who has a different business altogether. Just talk to them and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. What would you do? Or how would you do this? My wife, she listens to all kinds of stuff. So if she listens to this, thank you to her for always listening. It just depends on what the issue is or what the problem or what the thing is. And so
Mhm.
sometimes it's personal, and that's probably my wife listening to most of that. And
Okay.
hey, I'm so sick of this person doing this. What do I do? And she brings me back very quickly to reality. Or it's, hey, recently, hey, we're growing in geo. We have multiple geographies we're working in. How do you develop a marketing plan for that? That's a new challenge for us. That's a great question for Vistage or for my YPO friends, and they've all got great opinions. And the goal is not to say, okay, they did it that way, so we're going to copy it. It's to say, hey, that was a great solution or suggestion. I want to take nuggets from that and apply it to Opcala and make it our own. And that's how we've done it. And it's try to take the best from many different opinions and then put it together. But I think the thing that we've learned is early on, we would have the problem. We'd get like the one suggestion and implement it. At our size, we've slowed down a little bit and say, okay, this is a problem. Let's talk to a couple people, not just me, our other leaders too, and figure out like, how are we going to address it? Is it something we have to address tomorrow, or can it wait a quarter? Or figuring out when you need to address issues is the maturity, I think, of a leader. And they're not all fires as they were in the beginning, as much as we think they are.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, that's interesting. So you have a network of people really that you build for different issues or who you would consult on different things. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just depends on the issue. Like I said, there's so many great people out there. And aside from my network, I try to read about a book a month. That's my goal. And usually it's nonfiction, some type of personal business development, sales, whatever it may be. I also consult that. I say, that was a really good idea from this book. Could we implement this here?
Okay, so talk about your outlook for the business over the next 12 months and then go further. What is your plan maybe for the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself then?
Yeah, I think next 12 months, we're in a heavy hiring cycle right now. So our big thing has been over the last 3 years is make sure that no one's single threaded, right? As you go from startup to real business or mid-sized business, I think the important thing is in the beginning, you're the one consulting, you're the one doing the billing, you're wearing all these hats, and you just try to keep it together so that nothing falls off. Then you start hiring and you get someone for each role. At our size, it's making sure that not only do we have one person, but we have two people that can do pretty much everything so that no one is delayed if someone goes out, right? For whatever reason, vacation, something personal that happens, they leave for whatever reason. So it's a lot of like double filling roles, making sure we have contingency plans, which sounds like kind of lame, but it's really important. And at the size, like if you don't do that first, then you start growing yourself out of good processes. You start growing yourself out of process that you've been able to establish that have worked. And we're doing that right now. We're also hiring because we've scaled up with some middle management inside of Opcala. We have our first TA advisor manager, so a sales manager in the traditional sense. We have our first operations manager. We have our first marketing person who's leading people. So we have middle management. Now we have the ability to scale into that. So we need to hire folks to be on their teams and start letting them run their teams as if we were the managers 3 years ago. So right now we're filling out different geos. We're filling out different roles. We're starting to look at things like, hey, we've done this to this point, but what else do we need to do to provide better advice and technology support for customers? So do we need to implement some more software? Do we need more solutions that shows how we do things, et cetera? And we're working on those. So for the next 12 months, it's a lot of the same. It's continue to provide better technology decisions for customers. Our theme for this year, and it might stick past this, is help someone make one better technology decision every day. And that's everyone in the company. We can do that. You'll continue to be successful for a long time. So this year it's grow stably. 5 years is really hard. I don't love answering 5 years just at the high growth, but I really do believe we're disrupting the industry. And there's a lot of great companies in our space out there who have been around forever, but also new companies. And so it's exciting in technology. There's no business process you could talk about that doesn't involve technology anymore. So I think you're just going to see a lot more folks in our space be successful, but I think we could be a $500 million, $1 billion business one day if we so choose. And so what I want to do is more importantly than the revenue and the size is constantly stick to, are we building trust by being transparent and doing it with speed? Can we keep the culture intact? Are we still as leaders having fun running this? Are my people still having fun being here? Are we still making an impact? If all those things are in place, I don't see any reason we won't grow for the next 5 years. But if one of those things stops, maybe I decide that it's not for me to lead anymore because I'm not the right person. Or maybe we change gears if technology all shifts. I don't think that'll be the case, but I never know. But I think we'll be growing for the next 5 years pretty stably and steadily. And I'm just super excited. Every team in Opcala has something cool they're working on. Our ops team has automated like our whole back office, which is a huge accomplishment. Our architecture and our marketing teams continue to work on automation so that we can provide more real-time data and solutions to customers. Our TA team constantly evolves with the technology. And so we're just all about continuing to evolve because we have this saying inside of Opcala, I don't care the way it's always been done. If you start using that, like you're starting to look closer to the door if you say that, because like technology is just not like that.
Yeah, you never evolve. Yeah, especially with technology. You got to move pretty quickly. So I assume that generally as a company, that's how you view things as well. They have to personally evolve quickly, but the company has to evolve quickly as well.
Yeah. I think in general, even non-technology companies, like if you always just do the same thing, like you're gonna get past. And even now, like I said, with technology, it's even faster. I don't think the misnomer or the kind of misconception I think in business though, and leadership is you have to change your business every 5 years. You don't have to change your business. You just have to tweak things. You just have to make sure, hey, is that a path we need to go down? Is that an investment we need to make? Is that a service we want to take on and like MVP it or test it and see? Like we've had so many things that we started down a path and then we just stopped doing it because it wasn't really valuable. So I don't want to sit here and say we've done like the fail fast thing great, but we've done some things where it's like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing it?
Mhm.
You don't get all of it right, but are you willing to try the new thing? Are you willing to tweak the thing that you think is going to get better? Just keep doing that. And again, there's amazing entrepreneurs out there. We all read about them, the guys that are tech billionaires and how they made it. We're not all them. And I think it's easy to sometimes say, well, I'm not this person, so I can't do it past this point. Just try to get 1% better every day in your personal life and in your business life and in your company. And like, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, that's so good. I grew up in sports and I tell people I still hear my coach saying as we're stretching on the field, get better today, get better every day. That's the exact same thing that I took to everything in my life. So I couldn't agree with you more, Aaron. I think that's a great philosophy that leads to a lot of success in a lot of ways. So as you got bigger, single threading people was one of those areas that you recognized, wow, if we don't do this, we're going to crash in some part of the business, right?
You learn from it. Like when we weren't good at it when we started, right? The first time I realized it was when our one person was like, I can't do anymore. I'm going on vacation and I'm totally overwhelmed. Like you learn quickly, okay, then we better find a solution. So early on, it was painfully figuring out how to hire, how to train. Now it's trying to be more proactive to say, hey, is anyone starting to get to this point where we've got one role right now inside of Opcala where I'm noticing not a backlog, but just a lot of requests coming. So are we single threaded? We're not totally. And it doesn't mean you go higher necessarily. Like, I don't think that's not always the right case. All this person needs is some additional support, which we'll get from a third party or some provider out there. That's enough. When he's out or when we need something, it's an overspill for those tasks that we need done. At some point, when we grow more, maybe we do hire another person. But I think there's things like that you can look at. And so it's not always like here to there. It's like you can stair step up in a lot of cases to fix problems. And that's what we've done the whole time. And again, we haven't gotten it right every time, but we've tried to be proactive since we learned like, hey, be more intentional about hiring earlier at this growth rate because it's going to catch up. And so if anyone's, we won't fully be able to use the person now, I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll be able to use them in 3 months. go ahead and hire.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I always save this one question for last, Aaron. If you had to give advice to someone that's starting a business or a young executive or a new CEO, what would you say to them?
If you're becoming a CEO or if you're taking over family business, I think I have a lot of advice here, so I'm happy to speak to anyone who is interested, but I would just say like, I know that mission statements and vision statements and all these like cliche statements that we write on walls can be cliche. But if you are not passionate about what you're doing and what your company and the service or the product you're providing, you can't possibly lead with passion. So figure out somewhere to lead where you can be passionate about it, or figure out what you need to do with the culture so that you can be passionate about it, and make sure that's infectious. Because if you're passionate and you believe, the hardest days you can wake up the next morning, come to work super pumped up. And so I won't say every day. I meet people and they're like, man, like everything just seems to always work at UpCall. It's no, trust me. There are days that suck, and there's days that like you deal with something and you go home, you're like, I'm so pissed. I still get up the next morning and say, okay, we're going to address this problem. And I still love what I do. That's the game changer. If you have someone that loves what you do versus someone that doesn't, like I'll bet on the one that loves what they do every day of the week. And so,
Sure.
again, to your question, if it's a family business, which is awesome for those people that have the luxury of doing that, as long as you're passionate about what your family's business is, then go do it. But if you're not passionate about what your parents or what your grandparents started, don't just do it because it's easy. Go do something you're passionate about. I just hate when I see people who are like in this role and they're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really love it, but it's good money. That's not good. Your people are going to leave you so quick because they're going to see right through that. And so just be passionate and just try to show up every day with that passion because it's infectious.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I think to me, finding that passion sometimes is some of the hard part. It seems like you found it, right? You found it in a different way over time in the beginning of your career. And the story, Aaron, was incredible. That decision, I still am amazed with people when I talk to them. 10 years into a career, you're at a good point. Wow. How do you take a step back? But for you in 9 months, you really hit that point where you guys were going to continue. That's the turning point for you.
Yeah. And it was the turning point. We were by no means making the money that we were for a good 5 years after that, but that's not what matters anymore because we were passionate about what we were trying to do. And again, I'm lucky that we did it when we did it and we had the idea. But for those that are not entrepreneurs or just leaders and they're not the starter, I still think you can have the same passion. Like I had passion for what I was doing before. As that waned, that's when I knew it was time for me to go. But you can still be passionate about something you didn't start. And it could be because it's helping you achieve that personal goal. And again, like my advice to a new executive is be passionate. My advice to everyone is make sure you know your personal why and I heard a story last week. If someone puts what you did on your gravestone, would you kick it over or would you be super impressed?
Yeah.
Make it a gravestone that someone won't kick over. Make it something that they'll be like, wow, that's really impressive. And you'd be impressed by it. So I think that we have one life. We all get the same amount of time in a day. We all get the same opportunities in theory, right? Take advantage of the opportunities and just, take the risk. Don't be scared to do something that you believe in.
That's great advice. I really appreciate that, Aaron. I think everybody will as well. We're at the end of our time. Thank you for sharing your story and being very open. It's a very interesting story. Are you willing to take questions if people have questions? Can I put that in the show notes?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the platform I'm most active on, although I do sometimes get on some of the other ones, but I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I put a Monday morning motivation up every Monday, and I always connect with people there and love meeting other people that are down this journey as well.
Okay, fair enough. Aaron, thank you again for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff, and this was fun.
Yeah, amen.